Just last week I was driving in Yamagata and somebody who looked to be maybe 200 years old nearly crashed into me.
Wow.
Hello and welcome to the Abroad in Japan podcast, probably the best way of learning about life in Japan without actually being in Japan. I'm your host Chris Broader. We're joined as always by England's top Japan enthusiast, Mr. Pete Dawson himself. Pete, I just hit my hand on my laptop. How you doing? What's going on?
Oh dear. I'm good, Chris. I'm keeping well. I am enjoying autumn, drinking my spiced lattes and gazing off into the middle distance and thinking about, I don't know, writing my book. Yeah, it's good. I worry every autumn I grab my clothes out of a cupboard that's been shut for an entire sort of year, pretty much. And I'm very sensitive to dust. I'm very allergic to sort of dust particles.
Welcome to asthma.
Every time I take an autumn jumper out and put it on, I'm worried that my eyes are going to just look like I've had a few rounds of Lennox Lewis. Like for some reason, some years I put on a particular jumper and my eyes just go brrr, and I look absolutely terrible. But I think I've escaped the worst of it. But if my eyes start getting very puffy during this recording, that's why. It's because of the dust mites.
Why don't you wash your clothes? That's a simple fix.
I do wash my clothes,
problem.
but if it's cold and I grab a jumper, I'm like, I can't wash this now. I've got to put it on. It's cold. It's cold outside, Chris. That's how it
First
works.
world problems. Pete Dawson's first world problems. The jumpers. I was in my cupboard.
Jumpers very dusty.
Look at this. This is my lunch. You hear
Oh, sake flavoured Kit Kat? Is that like an individual sort of bottle-shaped kind of... Oh, Christopher.
This is
They are
my
nice.
breakfast. My breakfast, lunch and
But
dinner today.
But the problem is with sake flavoured Kit Kat, it's white chocolate, isn't it, rather than milk chocolate, which I'm not a fan of.
Well, it says on the front, the elegant taste of sake wrapped in the gentle sweetness of white chocolate. Enjoy the rich, satisfying flavour of sake. So
What
good,
even
man.
is white
Oh,
chocolate? It's yoga mats.
Yeah, but
it's absolutely horrible.
It's good stuff. Like it's white chocolate, yeah, but it smells like sake and it tastes a little bit like sake.
Sick.
It's so good.
Like sick.
It's my favourite flavour of Kit Kat.
Really? So you don't
100%.
F with the matcha flavour or any
This
of the
is
more
so much
exotic
better.
ones? The ones with beans in.
Rubbish. This is where it's at. Get these. You won't regret it. That's good
Right,
stuff,
okay.
man. I love me some Kit Kats, and yeah, it's my lunch. Probably need a better lunch.
Pre-Halloween for me was difficult because it was I bought a big bowl of if you're familiar with the German supermarket brand Aldi or those ones where you have like where you have the middle aisle that's just full of like mitre saws and space suits and whatever they've got whatever they've got off the back of the lorry that week.
Yeah.
You've got you've got that and I bought a big barrel of sweets for the children who were coming around doing trick or treat. That lasted about a week. I was just absolutely hoovering them up, and then I bought another 3 bags of sort of your whispers of this world, and they went as well. And I'm just not a well man. I think I've put on a stone just pre-Halloween, just walking past in my slightly fractious state, just absolutely hoovering up Halloween candy. It's not right. It's just not right.
Wait a minute. How many children came to your door for trick or treat Halloween festivities?
Not enough. Not enough for the amount of
You probably
sweets I ate.
you probably scared the kids in your neighbourhood knowing you. I don't want to go on that. Not him. He's the weird man who comes out dancing all day, singing and dancing.
Well, I fell for that quite early sort of, was it Instagram? It might have been Instagram scam where you buy like a latex mask of like an old man's face with a moustache or whatever, and it looks really professional and really high quality. The one that's on the Instagram thing, and when you get it from AliExpress China, and it arrives, it's just a piece of shit. It looks like a Burns victim. It's horrible. Yeah, so I was wearing that. That was my Halloween costume. It didn't look good. It didn't look great.
Was it made from asbestos and potassium?
Probably.
Yeah.
Had some horrific fortitude, horrific history.
Do you remember bath mat gate a few years ago? I can't remember if they were Chinese bath mat, but there was like a recall for bath mats from made by is it Nitori? the sort of IKEA of Japan. And it was like, the bath mats are made of like asbestos and carcinogenic shit. And I was like, ha 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 ha, wait, I've got that bath mat. And I threw out this bath mat that I used every day because it was made of like cancer. And it's just like, Jesus Christ.
Do you not sort of look at something like that and sort of go, oh, I mean, something that's so inherently rare has to be inherently valuable. I must keep this bath mat for things. How did you dispose of it? Did you have to return it to the actual shop rather so it was disposed of properly, or did you just stuff it into a bin?
I think we had to like put it in 2 layers of bin bags or something and then throw it out the window. Yeah, I can't remember the ins and outs. It was all a bit ridiculous, but maybe don't make bath mats out of carcinogenic crap, honestly. It's really annoying. Stupid.
Lordy. Terrific.
But the world has moved on since. Actually, speaking of toxic chemicals, that's actually our news story today, but we'll get to that after the story of the week. And this week, it's from Omni, who says, hello, Chris and Pete. About a year ago, I finally set off on my 2-month dream trip to Japan. The first leg of the trip was in Hokkaido and Tohoku with my twin brother, and after that we were joined by my partner and 2 close friends to travel through central Japan. Our last stop in Tohoku was, of course, the town of Aizu Wakamatsu. Yes, good choice. I love Aizu Wakamatsu. I'm going there literally next Tuesday. On one of our days, we were spent exploring the city's main attractions, and after visiting Tsuruga Castle and exploring the gardens around it, we headed on to the on-site tourist information centre. While speaking with the helpful woman there, I noticed a giant wasp flying towards us. It landed right next to me, and as I was about to shoo it away with my hands, the woman let out a loud scream. Get back! Get back now! She shrieked. And then she and her co-worker immediately sprang into action. In a flash, she was armed with a can of bug spray and her colleague with a large insect net. In perfect synchronization, as if they had trained for this moment for years, they performed an impressive technique to thwart the wasp, one throwing the net with perfect accuracy, followed by the other blasting it with the spray can. The entire scene felt like something out of a cartoon. I regret not being able to film it. Have either of you had an unforgettable experience with an insect in Japan? Keep up the good work, Omni, who luckily survived his wasp encounter. What do you make of that, Pete?
I mean, it sounds very much like this. These people have got a zero tolerance hornet opinion, and I think if you've always got kind of bug spray around you, you're going to be inhaling a lot of bug spray. I mean, it's going to be well worse than having an asbestos bath mat. I do think if you've always got bug spray on hand, your house or wherever you are is absolutely covered in the stuff. And it's I don't know how safe bug spray is for humans, but it feels like it probably isn't because it literally ends lives of animals. Like, wow.
I've never seen this happen, actually. I mean, I've heard of the net. I've had a few experiences with hornets. I was driving home from school one day when I was a teacher, and a hornet flew in through my window. And hornets, and I'm assuming this was a hornet. Hornets they're very, very big and hard to comprehend the first time you see them, but always kind of beautiful. They look like gigantic bees. They have the most incredible stripes, and their face is very distinct. It looks like it got like the eyes of Sonic the Hedgehog, and it has a really like distinct face on it. Look up, murder hornets, giant hornet. They are very beautiful, but also fucking terrifying, because if it actually stings you, you're going to be rolling on the floor for a long time. And if you have an anaphylactic shock, it could be bloody dead. And it flew in through the window, banged into my head, luckily face first, and flew straight back out the window. And I was like, my God, that could have gone a lot worse. The last time I got stung was actually last year. I've only been stung by a bee twice. Once when I was like 8, a bee flew into my ear and stung inside my ear. I was like deaf for a week.
That's unwelcome.
That was not good. And then the second time was last year. I was in the UK, actually. I think it was in like Cornwall or something with Charlotte, just driving around. Sun in my hair, the wind in my hair rather, and sun in my face, the window's down. And somebody went bzzz and went behind my back. And I sort of swatted it away because I was like, it's just a fly. And then I felt this, like, piercing, horrible sensation, like a needle had just gone through my skin. And it flew away and it was a bee. And it fucking hurt. It really did hurt. But it went away after, like, 2 minutes. Like, it was extremely painful for, like, 30 seconds. And then it sort of diminished rather quickly. But, Charlotte has been attacked or stung by a hornet, though, when she was on a homestay, I think, in Shikoku years ago. She got stung by a hornet she's walking through like some long grass, and one, got her foot. And the farmer whose house she was staying at was like, "Give me your foot, quick!" And she like grabbed Charlotte's foot and like sucked the poison out, which is like,
yeah, they
God,
did.
no.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, give us it.
It was a woman. It was a woman.
You
don't worry.
Awful. Oh,
it was
right,
a woman.
fine.
You're always thinking the worst of people, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Women can be foot fetishists too. That's all I'm saying.
I'll suck the poison out, love. Come here.
Yeah, come here.
He had to ruin the lovely moment. But so she got the poison out. But I've not seen anything like that. I've seen like creepy centipedes on Journey Across Japan. I've seen large spiders.
They're so beautiful, but so dangerous. They can bite.
Yeah, and in Okinawa and the southern bits of Japan, there's the habu snake, which is kind of scary. If it gets you, if it bites you and injects you kind of like got a few hours to quickly get some anti-venom before you die, essentially. So, a little bit scary. And off to Okinawa in a few weeks as well.
Well, watch out for the bloody snake, crying out loud. The Habbo snake, the Habbo Hotel snake. Did you read? I didn't know this, but like on September 11th, when all the flights were grounded in America, there was one flight that was allowed to fly, and it was a flight that was delivering antivenom. To a man who'd been bitten by a specific kind of snake. I think he was a snake handler or something. But he was in all kinds of trouble. And they had to get special, as you can imagine, special dispensation to fly a plane and stuff.
Oh, it's great they let him carry on his flight, though.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. What? I don't know what. Can you imagine the conversations going, like,
oh my God,
we've grounded all of the flights because something horrific has happened and is continuing to happen. And then somebody going, yeah, we need to fly this bloody plane. So wild, absolutely wild.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. That's, yeah, what a relief. My God, what a relief. But, on the subject of perilous things, today we talk about Fukushima. We don't hear about Fukushima as much as you used to, but it's still very much an ongoing situation. A lot of the surrounding areas recovered. I will say, I was last in Fukushima just under a year ago for Journey Across Japan Non-Stop North. We did the 3rd or 4th episode there. It was kind of like a mini documentary. And I remember at one point we drove down a road in through a forest. And the Geiger counter, which I had, did creep up a little bit higher than I'd like, but it's still very low. But just this week, robots have done something rather impressive and rather remarkable, given that the disaster now happened in 2011 and it's 2014, so it's almost just over 13 and a half years ago, right, since the meltdown. And only now have they been able to get hold of some of the melted fuel from the Fukushima nuclear reactor using robots. Fill us in, Pete. What's going down? What's going up?
Yeah, I mean, a remote control robot has safely returned with a tiny piece of melted fuel it collected from inside one of the 3 damaged reactors at Fukushima. At the nuclear power plant, and it hacked it to bits with a big axe. Yes, the power company that manages the plant said on Saturday that an extendable fishing rod-like robot successfully clipped a gravel as big as 5 millimeters, the size of a tiny bit of porridge, from the top surface of a mound of molten fuel debris that sits on the bottom of the number 2 reactor's primary containment vessel. It returned to an enclosure for safe storage after workers in full hazmat gear pulled it out of the containment vessel earlier on Saturday. This is the first time they've ever been able to remove melted fuel from the containment vessel. The mission isn't over until the sample's radioactivity is below a certain level, so it has to basically stay where it is, I think. If the radioactivity exceeds the limit, the robot must go back inside and get more pieces, for crying out loud. But it was supposed to be a 2-week round trip, but it's taken months to get this finished. I mean, it's an incredible, not particularly risky for the people operating it, but certainly very delicate, and a lot of things can go wrong very, very quickly and stuff. So it's going to be basically these pieces of porridge-size melted fuel rods can provide data that will allow the decommissioning strategy people to sort of come up with plans for how to sort this out all in for one. So they've set a 30 to 40 year target for the cleanup, which experts say is overly optimistic and should be updated. So there we go. If getting a microscopic amount of fuel rod out took about 4 months, it's probably is a little bit gauche to suggest it's going to take anything less than 30 to 40 years. So it comes at a time where obviously everyone's sort of talking about renewable energy and electricity and stuff, and certainly in the UK. We've got a new government who are talking through their sort of green energy plans, and you do sort of look at something like this and sort of go, this has been the extent of the worst nuclear disaster in recent memory, and they're dealing with it quite well. And I think for all of the awful stories that came out of the tsunami, this is about as bad as it gets. And you do sort of look at how destructive, electrical energy, it's kind of renewable, kind of, not necessarily wind, but certainly other kind of like battery storing energies is. You do sort of go, I mean, Britain's pretty it's pretty sort of steady. We don't get a lot of earthquakes. We don't get a lot of awful kind of, mega weather events. You think that, like, certainly for our country, renewable energy, like, out of the sort of gamut of sort of dirty energy, you sort of think that, God, I mean, nuclear energy should be looked at a little closer because it's probably a little bit cheaper to set up rather than what we're looking at with the whole kind of the other renewables.
I mean, I know the UK is building a new nuclear reactor at Hinkley Point down in Somerset at the moment, and yeah, I have mixed feelings on it all. I mean, this disaster cost $200 billion, which might outweigh some of the benefits they had from nuclear energy. But then it also might not, because after the disaster, Japan shut down all of its nuclear reactors, right? And it has many, many nuclear reactors. And they became reliant on importing oil, gas, fuel from the Middle East. So Qatar actually donated a lot of money to Tohoku University, presumably out of niceness and also because Japan's buying a lot of their energy.
Soft motherfucking power, baby.
Oh, yes. So Japan has become hopelessly reliant on other countries now when it was pretty energy independent, right? I know that nuclear reactors are back online, as far as I know, up and down the country. And they need to be, I think, in the long term. Because nuclear energy, it does go wrong very rarely. Takes a earthquake so powerful it shifted the planet slightly off its axis to cause a meltdown. And it was largely down to human error as well, not building a big enough seawall and being a bit stupid. They should have built the seawall higher, and that would have cost them like an extra $10 million, and they didn't, and it led to this absolute catastrophe. But nuclear reactors, modern ones, are a lot safer than they used to be as well. And I do think it's a better answer than building more coal, oil, gas plants to burn fuel, directly injecting, toxic chemicals into the air. Especially as an asthmatic, CO2 emissions kill a lot more people every year around the world than nuclear energy has ever done. But radiation is scary though. There's no doubt radiation is a terrifying concept. This idea that something you can't see.
Hey, those uranium rods, where the fuck do you think we found them? In the ground. Where does the waste go? In the ground.
I'd rather eat some of this nuclear waste more than a box of Lunchley, to be honest. It's probably fucking better for you. But nuclear reactor fuel.
Put that on the side of the box. But it is that's like the politics of like people go, oh, radiation, you're gonna put it back in the ground and stuff. But I mean, like, every fuel is dirty, and you cannot trust governments to get it right. That's the real issue, isn't it? Oversight and capitalism. People just won't do the right things properly. It's a real shame.
Well, yeah, and TEPCO was, I believe it's a private organisation. TEPCO, Tokyo Electric Power Company Holdings. I think they're private, and they probably went, we can make more profit if we don't build the wall higher. They should have built a fucking wall. It's really annoying. It's like, come on, you're on an active fault where earthquakes and tsunamis happen once every 100 years. Yeah. Let's think this through. It's very frustrating because if that hadn't happened, just the devastation would have been minuscule in terms of nuclear disaster. There wouldn't have been one. So I think I'm pro nuclear energy. I do think it's a force for good, but done correctly and done with bigger fucking seawalls.
As a stepping stone for renewables, bearing in mind what the pollution that we are seeing now. I mean, I presume to varying degrees it doesn't create quite so much problems for the climate, but obviously storage of the waste is paramount.
Dig a hole, innit?
Again,
dig a hole.
You
Stick
just
it
need,
in.
you just dig a big hole.
Get the shovel out.
You just need governments to do what they're supposed to be doing, aka provide oversight for private companies. But it's something they never do because they're all bent.
But it's kind of crazy though, like the numbers and the time spans evolve when it comes to nuclear disasters. And like Chernobyl, they only built the sarcophagus, 10, 15, it's about 20 years ago. They built that massive sarcophagus over the site to, keep the radiation enclosed as best as they could. Although it is still pretty dangerous around Chernobyl. I've had friends go there, and you're allowed to sort of walk around for a bit, like a few hours, but it's a much higher dosage than Fukushima. Fukushima is the area around it is a lot safer, and they've done an incredible job cleaning it at massive cost. They had to remove a top layer of soil, like 20 centimeters deep, for a huge area of land that is incomprehensible in scale. All of it was incomprehensible in scale.
And you look at how also in kind of in disputed territories. I mean, I'm not saying that that parts of Ukraine are disputed in any way, but bearing in mind it was an invasion. But obviously the Russians are using a nuclear setup as a bit of a literal political football. Threatening to attack, threatening to defend, threatening to just all.
Oh, you're talking about the Zaporizhia nuclear plant?
Yeah. So obviously in those territories it's a little bit more difficult. But I think when I look at places closer to home, it's a little bit more stable, and you can get away with using nuclear power and making some capital out of that, really. So I'm weirdly a proponent of nuclear power because I know for a fact how unpalatable all of the other renewables are to any politician and most people on the street, because they just don't want to give up after.
Yeah, I mean, there's things you can do like build windmills, but the output of a windmill farm is not half as reliable as a nuclear reactor by any measure.
It should be a stepping stone to renewables. I think that's with the appetite for getting the reduction of coal-fired and wood-fired burning plants. It needs to move over.
Yeah, I do. Japan is well placed to take advantage of geothermal energy. They've got lots of dams. There are more dams per capita than most countries do, given the mountain ranges around the whole nation. And but I think geothermal, even heat coming up from beneath the ground, still isn't as reliable or as powerful as nuclear energy. Like nuclear reactors are incredibly effective at getting the job done, but hopefully we can keep developing them though to a point where they are incredibly stable and safe. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of nuclear reactors in operation around the world today, and only, as far as I know, only 3 major disasters: Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island, Fukushima. And yeah, time will tell about Fukushima, but for the most part they've done a good job getting the area around it back on track and whatnot. And it's mind-boggling though that the people that started the cleanup 10 years ago, many of them probably on their way to retirement, and yet this is a 30 to 40 year cleanup. This is going to be going on and on. Long after you and I have long gone, Pete, they'll still be cleaning things up and sorting out that reactor. And that is just a mind-boggling thing. And the fact they can't build a robot that can go and clean it easily is, get the people that did Robot Wars, get the old British engineers back. They've got nothing better to do. Sitting in their garages around the country going, I could build a robot. Give them 10,000 quid. Give them 10,000 pounds and let them build their little robots, and then bring the Fukushima, and we'll get that nuclear fuel out. We'll dig it up with a pickaxe on a robot. But but we've definitely, if you're into this though, if you're interested in Fukushima, there's lots of great places you can go and visit up near the site and have a look around and learn about the story and what is going on up there. It's one of the most remarkable, inspiring, and also chilling places in Japan, or in the world for that matter, and I highly recommend a visit. Maybe we can go there when you come up to Japan in 2 weeks' time.
Treat yourselves.
You would actually really like it. You'd
put our money where our mouth is.
and have a walk around. We're back in just a moment, guys, with your stories, comments and questions over in the fax machine.
Wow.
And we're back with the fax machine. What have we got this week from our listeners? Mr. Dawson, fill us in.
Hello, Chris and Pete. As an avid rider, I've unfortunately been doored once and then hit by a car on another occasion. I've been wandering around Japan, visiting many cities since the start of August, and it came as a shock to me that not many people wear helmets when riding bikes here. Is this a cultural thing, or are Japanese drivers more aware of cyclists on the roads? Regards, Luke. You don't see many people with cycling helmets, but then you don't really see that many cyclists on the roads because you're allowed to cycle on the pavements, I suppose, in most cities, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different culture of cycling to back home. In the UK, people usually cycle on the roads, right? They usually big road bike, going to work, helmet on. Whereas in Japan, most people cycle on the sidewalk. And it's kind of annoying because you're always running into someone's bloody bike. But it's also probably safer for the cyclists. And that's why people don't wear helmets, really. It's sort of a thing you do on the sidewalk here. So I think the government did institute, riders under the age of 13 should wear helmets, is a law.
Right.
And, there's some fluff in my mouth.
What is this? It's a flake of nuclear energy in your mouth.
Fucking awful. There's 70,000 accidents involving cyclists in Japan last year alone. And it's on the increase, probably because people are getting older and not driving as well.
Right.
Just last week I was driving in Yamagata and somebody who looked to be maybe 200 years old nearly crashed into me because they pulled out their car and out of nothing and didn't see that I was coming down the road. So, not surprised. Scary stuff out there. Maria from Nicaragua says, hello, Chris and Pete. I've been a kabuki fan for some time now. One of my dreams is to watch a kabuki show in Japan in the near future. Is it complicated to buy tickets for a kabuki show as a foreigner? Have you seen or would you go and see a show? Love the podcast, guys. Maria from Nicaragua. I don't think I have. Have you, Pete? You're a kabuki man.
No, I'm a kabuki show man. I've not chosen a kabuki show at all. Really, it's one of those things that I wouldn't even know how to access, even if I knew where it was taking place. To be honest, I find ticket buying in Japan quite difficult. Even for like wrestling shows and stuff, it's quite complicated. You got to go if you want to buy a pre ticket. You got to go to a 7-Eleven and tap in all your details and stuff, and it's all in Japanese and it's all very confusing. So I don't know how I would even. I've never bounced into a kabuki theatre even though I presume there's a few around.
There are a few. There's one in Tokyo called Kabukiza Theatre, and it's in Higashi Ginza, and I've never been there. I've driven past it a lot. It looks very cool. It reminds me of the Chinese theatre in LA, kind of got the same exterior. And they do a lot of things there. There's Kyoto, the Minamiza Theatre, and Osaka has the Shochi Kuza Theatre. So they do exist. They are few and far between, but you can book them. I think they're on pretty regularly. They cost like 2,000 to 3,000 yen. It's like $20 to go. So you can go.
Get it on the list for Pete and Chris.
Oh.
Get on the kabuki road.
It could be cool.
The kabuki train.
I like the ones with the little puppets they have. The puppets, kind of fun.
Oh, lovely. Yeah.
Could go and see that. Like Thunderbirds.
Is it as good as the robot restaurant?
Is it as good as the robot restaurant? That's a loaded question. The restaurant that no longer exists because the robots were all let out of their captivity. Hendra from Indonesia says, Dear Chris and Pete, we will have our honeymoon in Japan in mid-November. Based on the full foliage prediction, we have embraced the reality that we'll be missing the blazing red maple leaves. Because of that, we plan to fill more of our 2 weeks with fun workshops and/or activities around Tokyo, Kobe, Osaka, and Kyoto. Do you think the tea ceremony is worth experiencing? Any particular workshops or activities that we should try within our 2 weeks? All the best, Hendra from Indonesia. I actually did the tea ceremony recently with Connor on his video where he rented a castle for a day at amazing cost, and we went to a castle and we stayed there, and there was dancing, there was tea. It does cost $20,000, and I'm glad I didn't pay for that. So good job, Connor.
Wowzers.
He put his money where his mouth is on that one. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Was tea where his mouth was?
The tea ceremony was so we had this beautiful tea ceremony in this wonderful Ochaya tea house overlooking a river, and yet in the background, beyond the river, there was a massive JCB digger going the whole time.
Right.
Excavating like a fucking river bed, and it just sort of ruined the whole experience because you could just hear, "This is a ceremony that has dated back thousands of years." Boop, 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 boop. It was full on. So if you do go to the tea ceremony, Hendra, be careful where you do it. What is good? Go and see the Kabuki Theatre in Tokyo. Go there.
See the Kabuki Theatre.
Yeah.
Go and see. Go to Super Potato in Akihabara. Check out
Super Potato.
Buy yourself a PC Engine from the 80s. Yeah, lovely.
I don't know. What is a good thing to do in Japan? A workshop, a cultural thing. I did kayaking recently up in Yamagata. That was very nice. Bit out of the way, not going to lie, but there's some nice places to kayak around Japan. Or you could get like a boat ride around Tokyo and see Tokyo from the rivers. It used to be called the Venice of the East, Tokyo, right? Or you could go to the actual modern-day Venice of Japan, which is really nice. Kurashiki, a wonderful town. I love it there, and they do workshopy things there. But yeah, I'm not good at craft or fun or good things, so I'm not the best resource on this. Personally, for me, my closest thing to a workshop is just getting in a hot spring bath and just sitting there all afternoon, and that's what I would do. To be honest, but what would you do, Pete?
I mean, onsens, wall to wall. Yeah, go and see a DDT show, and then just wall to wall onsens, man. I think if you're, I don't know what your partner is into, but excuse me.
Oh, it's gone very deep.
Your partner's into, but I think that like a lovely, massive, sprawling onsen that's celebrated by all, as long as you're tattoo free. Is a beautiful, stress-free way to enjoy. Or get yourself down to Amayama to the what are you doing mid-November? Maybe don't head for the beach, but you might find a little bit of joy around the beautiful kind of seaside towns of Japan.
We did on Connor's recent RV trip. We did sweet making, traditional confectionery making on stream, and. It was all right. It was kind of like everyone just did the same thing. There was no like degree of creativity in it though. And I say that's one problem with doing Japanese craft workshops is there's a fixed way to do it, and it's like you can't do your own thing. The sweets had to be made that exact way, and so Pete, Ludwig, Connor, and I all had the same sweets, although some looked a bit defective, that's what I would do. Make some sweets, make some confectionery. You can do it in Tokyo and Kyoto quite easily, and it can be fun if you find the right place, and then you can eat them, and that is rather good. So that gets my vote. Do that. Keep the stories, questions, comments coming into abroadjapanpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know. Again, guys, what do you want to see Pete do when he comes to Japan in 2 to 3 weeks now? Jesus. It's coming in fast. It's coming in hot.
It is.
And
it is. Pre-Christmas treat.
Get your seatbelts ready. What are we going to do? What do you want me to do with Pete? How should we deal with him? Let us know in the comments below. But for now, have yourself a bloody good few days. We'll see you right back here to do all over again on the Abroad Japan podcast. Bye for now.